Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69, your ultimate destination for discovering rare, hidden, and often overlooked gems in the world of numismatics. If you've ever picked up an old penny and wondered if it might be worth more than just 1 cent, today's episode is going to absolutely blow your mind. We're traveling back to 1957 to explore the rich story and surprising value behind one of the most iconic and beloved coins in American history, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, the 1957 Lincoln penny might seem like just another copper coin. You've probably seen one in a coin jar, maybe even found one stuck between couch cushions or buried in a relative's coin collection. But don't be fooled by its humble appearance. This unassuming coin carries history, symbolism, craftsmanship, and, if you're incredibly lucky, some serious value. Let's dig into the roots of this penny's story. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first time a real person, let alone a U.S. president, was featured on an American coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the penny proudly displayed Lincoln's profile on the obverse and two simple yet powerful wheat stalks on the reverse. This design remained in place until 1958, meaning the 1957 penny was minted during the final stretch of what collectors now call the wheat penny era. That alone makes it more than just pocket change. It marks the end of an iconic design run, making these late series wheat pennies more desirable to collectors. Now, let's talk about the design details that make this coin stand out. On the front, we see President Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1957, to the right. It's simple, elegant, and instantly recognizable. Flip the coin over, and you'll see those famous wheat ears curving along both sides with the words, 1 cent, boldly in the center, followed by United States of America, and the national motto, E Pluribus Unum, above. These wheat ears aren't just decorative, they symbolize America's agricultural strength and heritage. It's a throwback to a time when farming was not just a way of life but a powerful symbol of national prosperity and stability. Now here's where things get really interesting, the mint marks. In 1957, Lincoln pennies were struck at two different mints, Philadelphia and Denver. Pennies from the Philadelphia mint carry no mint mark and are simply dated 1957. Those from Denver bear a small d just beneath the date. While both types were produced in large quantities, the Denver mint struck significantly more that year, making Philadelphia issues just a bit scarcer, especially in top condition. Speaking of condition, this is one of the biggest factors in determining a coin's value. Most of the 1957 wheat pennies you'll find today have been well circulated. They've passed through thousands of hands, been worn down, scratched, and even discolored over time. But a small number were never circulated. These uncirculated examples, especially those with full original red luster, sharp details, and zero blemishes, are the ones that collectors hunt for. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and anything above 65 is considered gem quality. A 1957 Lincoln penny in mint state 67 or higher, especially with strong eye appeal, can be worth far more than you might expect. But even that is just the tip of the iceberg. There's another category of coins that takes things to an entirely different level, error coins. That's right. Some 1957 Lincoln pennies were minted with mistakes, double die errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even repunched mint marks. These are rare and often difficult to spot with the naked eye, but collectors absolutely go wild for them. A double die error, for example, means that certain parts of the design, like the date, the motto, or Lincoln's features, appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die during minting. These coins are not only rare, but also incredibly unique. No two errors are exactly the same, which means each one is a one-of-a-kind find, and let's not forget about historical context. 1957 was a pivotal year in American history. The Cold War was intensifying, the space race was beginning to stir, and culturally, the United States was on the cusp of a new era. So, coins minted in this time reflect more than just monetary value, they're tangible relics from a transformative moment in our shared story. So, what does all of this mean for you? well, if you happen to stumble upon a 1957 Lincoln wheat penny, especially one with a Denver mint mark or an unusual feature, don't be so quick to spend it or toss it aside. Examine it carefully. Look at the luster. Check for any doubling or striking anomalies. If you think you have something special, consider getting it graded by a reputable coin grading service. It could make all the difference, because now, finally, the big question: how much is it worth? While most 1957 wheat pennies are only worth a few cents to a few dollars, there are rare examples, especially those in pristine mint condition or featuring dramatic minting errors, that have been sold for as much as $110,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single 1-cent coin, worth just a penny at face value, could fetch up to $110,000 in the right circumstances. Isn't that incredible? It just goes to show that sometimes, the most ordinary-looking coins can hold the most extraordinary stories and values. So next time you're sorting through loose change, or digging through an old box in your attic, keep an eye out. Because you never know, that little copper coin from 1957 might just be your next big discovery. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a coin that has traveled through time, through war, through American history, and may very well be sitting quietly in someone's attic, pocket, or change jar right now. It's the legendary 1942 Lincoln wheat penny. Now I know what you might be thinking: it's just a penny. But let me stop you right there. This little copper coin could be so much more than spare change. It could be a direct connection to a pivotal moment in world history, a masterpiece of American minting, and, if you're incredibly lucky, an investment worth a staggering amount of money. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this coin is so valuable, what to look for, and how it could change your life if you find the right one. Let's rewind to the year 1942. The United States was right in the middle of World War II. Factories across the country were converting to war production, families were rationing goods, and every American was doing their part to support the fight. Even the U.S. Mint was impacted. Metals were in high demand for ammunition, vehicles, and military equipment. And while the famous steel cent wouldn't be introduced until 1943, 1942 was a year full of preparation, adjustment, and enormous national effort that makes the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny more than just a coin. It's a piece of wartime America, a physical artifact from a time when the entire country was united in purpose and sacrifice. On the design front, the 1942 penny features the same iconic imagery that defined the wheat cent series. On the obverse, you'll see the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's image on the penny was revolutionary when it was introduced in 1909. He was the first real historical figure to appear on American currency, breaking the old tradition of using abstract representations of liberty. Above Lincoln's head, the motto, "In God We Trust," stands as a firm declaration of national faith during uncertain times. To the left, the word "liberty," and to the right, the date, 1942. Depending on where the coin was minted, you might also find a small mint mark beneath the date, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. No mint mark means it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted by the famous wheat ears, the hallmark of the wheat penny. These curved stalks symbolize agricultural prosperity and strength. In between them, the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. Above that, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. These inscriptions echo the American spirit of unity during a time of global conflict. Now let's get into the good stuff, the part every collector wants to know. What makes the 1942 wheat penny so desirable? First, let's talk mintage and availability. In 1942, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, so yes, many are still out there. But most have been worn down, damaged, or discolored over time. The real value comes from rarity, condition, and errors. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially those that have never been touched, or were preserved in original rolls, are incredibly scarce. The copper used in 1942 still had that beautiful reddish tone when first minted, but exposure to air over the decades has caused most of these coins to turn brown. Finding a coin with its original red luster is extremely rare and highly valuable, but that's not all. There are also mint errors, and these are where things get really interesting. Some 1942 pennies were struck off-center, others have doubled dies, meaning parts of the design, like the date or lettering, appear to be stamped twice. A few were even struck on the wrong metal planchets, potentially using leftover blanks from other denominations or previous years. These minting anomalies are incredibly rare, and collectors will pay a premium for them, sometimes a massive one. Let's not forget about the proof coins either. Proof pennies were minted with special care, polished dies, and were never meant for circulation. Most proof coins from 1942 were made in extremely limited numbers, especially as the war effort ramped up. If you ever come across a 1942 proof penny in near-perfect condition, you're holding a treasure that only a handful of collectors may ever see. So what should you look for if you think you found a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny with value? First, check for the mint mark, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Next, examine the overall condition. Are the details sharp? Can you see Lincoln's coat and the lines in the wheat stalks? Does the coin still have its red tone? Are there any strange or unusual features that might suggest a mint error? If the answer is yes to any of those, your next step is simple: have it professionally graded. Reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC will not only confirm the coin's authenticity, but will also assign it a numerical grade that directly influences its value. Coins graded MS 65 or higher, especially with a red designation, are considered exceptional. Add a mint error into the mix, and you've got a potential jackpot. Now, I know you've been waiting for this part, the big reveal. So here it is. While most 1942 wheat pennies might be worth a few cents to a few dollars, there are rare examples, minted perfectly, preserved flawlessly, or struck with unique errors, that have sold in private collections and auctions for as much as $130,000. That's right. A single, humble penny, if it's the right one, can be worth more than a brand new sports car, more than college tuition, and even more than some houses, and that's what makes coin collecting so exciting. You never know what you might find tucked away in an old drawer, forgotten in a coin jar, or resting quietly in your childhood piggy bank. Every coin has a story, and some of those stories are worth a fortune. Then today's episode is going to absolutely thrill you. We're heading back to post-war America to explore one of the most intriguing and often underestimated coins in U.S. history, the 1948 Lincoln wheat penny. Now I know, you're probably thinking, it's just a penny, right? Well, not exactly. Because this 1-cent coin carries much more than just its face value. It's a window into a pivotal time in American history. It's a work of art. It's a collector's dream. And for the lucky few who possess the rarest versions of this coin, it could be a life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. So sit back, grab a drink, and stay with me as we uncover everything you need to know about the 1948 Lincoln wheat penny. From its historical background to its striking design, hidden minting quirks, and its shocking potential value, we've got a lot to unpack, and you won't want to miss a single second. Let's begin with the history. The year was 1948. America was still adjusting to peacetime after the end of World War II. The country was rebuilding, the economy was changing, and soldiers were returning home to a new kind of American dream. It was a year filled with optimism and challenge. President Harry S. Truman was in office, the Cold War was heating up, and across the country, people were getting used to a new kind of normal, and during all of this, the humble penny, yes, the smallest denomination in U.S. currency, was still being produced with care, precision, and symbolism. The 1948 wheat penny is one of those coins that seems ordinary at first glance, but once you take a closer look, it becomes something truly special. Let's talk design. On the obverse side of the coin, you'll find a left-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, looking as stoic and wise as ever. This design by Victor David Brenner was first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and it has become one of the most iconic coin designs in American history. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto, "In God We Trust." To his left is the word "Liberty," and to his right is the year 1948, often accompanied by a mint mark just below it. That mint mark is crucial. It tells us where the coin was struck. You may see a small D for the Denver Mint or an S for the San Francisco Mint. If there's no mint mark, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted by the classic wheat reverse, two stylized stalks of wheat curving in from the sides, framing the bold inscriptions, 1 cent and United States of America. Above that sits the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. It's a strikingly simple design, but it speaks volumes about the values and identity of America during that era. Now, let's dig into why this coin stands out in the world of collectors. First off, mintage numbers. The 1948 penny was produced in large quantities across all three mints. That means they're not exceedingly rare by volume, but as any collector knows, it's not just about how many were made. It's about how many survived in exceptional condition. It's about the details, the errors, and the story behind the coin. Most of these pennies were used in everyday life. They passed through candy shops, gas stations, grocery stores, and newspaper stands. They were carried in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and jingled around in piggy banks. So finding a 1948 wheat penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is no easy feat. And then there are the minting errors, the holy grail of coin collecting. Some 1948 wheat pennies were struck with doubling errors, especially on the date or lettering. That means the numbers or words appear slightly duplicated or shadowed. These are called double die errors, and they are extremely desirable. Others have off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks, tiny anomalies caused during the production process that make the coin unique. These errors didn't occur on purpose, of course. But they've turned into treasures for collectors, because error coins are almost always rare, and rarity equals value. Now let's talk condition. Collectors use a standardized grading scale to determine a coin's quality. This scale runs from poor, P1, all the way up to mint state, MS 70. Most 1948 pennies you'll see are heavily worn and might grade somewhere in the very fine, VF, range. But if you can find one in mint state 65 or higher, with full red luster and no major blemishes, you're looking at a premium level coin. Here's a tip: if you think you have a potentially valuable 1948 penny, always have it authenticated and graded by a trusted third-party service like PCGS or NGC. A professional grading not only verifies your coin's authenticity, it dramatically increases its value on the open market. And here's the part you've been waiting for. You might be asking, okay, but how much is this coin really worth? Most common 1948 wheat pennies, even in decent shape, might fetch a few bucks. But certain examples, those with mint errors, brilliant uncirculated color, and top-tier grading, have sold for extraordinary amounts. These coins are rare, but they exist. And for the right collector, with the right combination of features, a 1948 Lincoln wheat penny has been known to sell for as much as $143,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that could have once bought a piece of gum, or been ignored entirely, can now be worth more than a luxury car or even a house. That's the magic of numismatics. That's the thrill of the hunt. Sometimes, the most incredible treasures aren't locked in vaults or displayed in museums, they're sitting in your junk drawer, quietly waiting to be discovered. Today, we're focusing on a coin that's often overlooked, quiet, humble, and seemingly ordinary. It's the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny. Yes, that small copper coin that most people barely glance at can hold within it a value beyond your wildest expectations. We're going to uncover the origin of this coin, its historical significance, the incredible design elements that make it a collectible masterpiece, and finally, how one single penny from 1954 could be worth an amount that might just change your life. Let's rewind the clock to 1954, an interesting and transformative time in American history. The war was over, the baby boom was underway, and the United States was entering a golden age of prosperity and growth. Television was becoming a household staple. Elvis Presley was beginning his rise to fame. And deep within the walls of the U.S. Mint, countless Lincoln pennies were being struck, destined to find their way into cash registers, pay envelopes, and piggy banks across the nation. Among them was a particular group of Lincoln wheat cents, pennies that today are far more valuable than their original 1-cent face value. Let's explore what makes these coins so incredibly special. At first glance, the 1954 wheat penny looks just like the many that came before it. On the front, or obverse, you'll find the famous profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. This portrait has graced the penny since 1909 and was designed by Victor David Brenner to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday. Look closely and you'll notice the crisp inscription, "In God We Trust," curving above Lincoln's head. To the left, the simple word, "Liberty." And to the right of Lincoln, the year, 1954. Just below that, depending on your coin, you might see a small D for the Denver Mint or an S for San Francisco. If there's no mint mark, your coin came from the main mint in Philadelphia. Now flip it over to see the reverse. There, two elegant stalks of wheat curve inward to cradle the bold declaration, 1 cent and United States of America. At the top, we find the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. It's a design both minimal and meaningful, one that pays tribute to America's agricultural strength and national unity. But this is where the story starts to get exciting. You see, not all 1954 pennies are created equal. Yes, millions were made, over 250 million, in fact. But that doesn't mean they all survived in collectible condition. Most of these pennies were used, lost, scratched, or worn down through decades of daily use. What collectors are looking for today are those rare survivors, coins that somehow escaped circulation, that were tucked away in drawers, forgotten in bank rolls, or preserved by chance in mint-fresh quality. And then there are the minting errors, the true jackpot for collectors. A few 1954 Lincoln wheat pennies were struck with doubling errors, where the text or numbers appear stamped twice, slightly offset. These are known as double-die pennies and are highly sought after. Others were struck on the wrong metal planchets, some using leftover blanks from other denominations or compositions. These unusual quirks make them ultra-rare. You might even encounter a repunched mint mark, where the tiny letter under the date was stamped more than once. Though these details are barely visible to the naked eye, to trained collectors and professional graders, they're golden, but condition is everything. In the world of coin collecting, a penny's grade can make the difference between a nice find and a life-changing one. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Most circulated coins might grade between 10 and 40. But if you find a 1954 penny in mint state 65 or higher, especially with its original red luster intact, you've got something truly special. And this is where the story takes a turn from interesting to astonishing. Collectors around the world compete fiercely for coins that check all the boxes: exceptional condition, vibrant original color, and possible mint errors. These factors multiply the value, sometimes exponentially. What started as a humble 1-cent coin in 1954 could be worth more than you ever imagined if all the right elements align. And if you're wondering just how high that value can go, well, brace yourself. In the most extraordinary cases, where a 1954 Lincoln wheat penny is graded at the highest mint state level, preserved in nearly perfect condition, and perhaps includes a mint error or unique variety, that coin can be worth as much as $140,000. That's right. One solitary penny, smaller than a quarter, lighter than a feather, could be worth $140,000 to the right collector. So here's your mission, if you choose to accept it. Go through your old coin jars. Dust off that childhood coin album. Dig into that old shoebox you inherited from your grandparents. You never know, hidden among those forgotten cents might be a coin that changes everything. And the best part? The Lincoln wheat penny is still one of the most collected coins in American history. That means the market is alive, thriving, and always looking for the next rare discovery. Today. Because what we're about to explore is not just a small piece of copper, it's a hidden gem of American history, a coin that tells a story, and for one lucky collector, it could be worth an absolutely staggering amount of money. Yes, I'm talking about the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, a simple, everyday 1-cent coin that's now making waves in the world of numismatics for all the right reasons. Stick with me through this video, because by the end, you'll understand why this humble penny is commanding such serious attention, and serious dollars. in the collector's market. Let's begin by setting the stage. The year is 1953. The United States is living in the post-World War II boom. Dwight D. Eisenhower is the president. The Cold War is underway, Elvis hasn't quite taken over the airwaves yet, and families across America are moving into suburbs, buying their first televisions, and building a future filled with optimism. And amidst all this transformation, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of coins, including the Lincoln wheat penny. Most people saw these as just pocket change. But for us collectors, we know better. Because some of these pennies are now worth a fortune. Let's talk about the coin itself. On the obverse, or front, of the 1953 wheat penny, you'll see the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a symbol of leadership, integrity, and unity. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," a powerful national motto introduced during a time of global uncertainty. To Lincoln's left is the word "Liberty," and to his right, the date, 1953. But that's not all. Right below the year, you may spot a small letter, a mint mark. This is key for collectors. If you see a D, it means the coin was minted in Denver. An S means it came from San Francisco. And if there's no mint mark at all, it was minted in Philadelphia. Each mint mark adds its own twist to the coin's rarity and value. Now flip the coin over to admire the reverse side, where two beautifully curved stalks of wheat flank the bold lettering 1 cent and United States of America. Above all that, the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. It's a simple design, yet one that represents the very soul of the American people, strength through unity, pride in agriculture, and the humble beginnings of a powerful nation. The Lincoln wheat penny design ran from 1909 to 1958, and every year within that span holds its own place in the hearts of collectors. But the 1953 issue has some particular quirks that make it highly collectible today. So what makes this penny special? Why are collectors buzzing about it? Well, let's talk numbers. Over 256 million of these pennies were minted in Philadelphia alone. Add in the Denver and San Francisco mints, and you've got over 700 million total 1953 wheat pennies out there. That sounds like a lot, right? But here's the catch: the vast majority of those coins were heavily circulated. They were tossed in drawers, rubbed down in cash registers, and jingled around in the pockets of millions of Americans for decades. Very few survived in mint state condition. And even fewer were preserved with their original red copper shine, known in the collecting world as red designation. But wait, there's more. Some of these pennies, especially from the Denver and San Francisco mints, were struck with mint errors. These are coins that were misstruck, had die cracks, off-center images, doubling on the date or lettering, or were accidentally minted on the wrong planchet, a blank meant for another coin. These errors are like winning the lottery for collectors, because they're extremely rare and highly valuable. And then there are the repunched mint marks, little anomalies where the mint letter appears to have been stamped more than once, creating a slightly shadowed or doubled look. These small inconsistencies, while unnoticed by most people, are like gold to seasoned collectors. If you happen to have a 1953 wheat penny with any of these features, especially one in uncirculated or near perfect condition, you could be sitting on a valuable asset. But how do you know what you have? Well, coins are graded using the Sheldon scale, which ranges from poor, 1 all the way to a flawless mint state, 70. A coin that grades MS 60 or higher is considered uncirculated. But once you cross into MS 65, MS 66, or above, and if the coin retains its original color and luster, you're now holding something that collectors will pay serious money for. Of course, the ultimate key to unlocking your penny's value is professional grading. Always submit your coin to a trusted third-party service like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, to get an official grade and certification. This can mean the difference between a penny worth a few dollars, and one that sells for thousands. And speaking of thousands, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1953 wheat pennies in circulated condition may only be worth a few cents or a couple of bucks, the top-tier examples, in pristine uncirculated condition, featuring strong strike quality, vibrant red luster, And perhaps a rare mint error or repunched mark. These have been known to command shocking sums at auction. Yes, believe it or not, one such 1953 Lincoln wheat penny with all the right attributes has been valued and sold for as much as $165,000, let that sink in. A coin once casually tossed in a pocket, spent on candy or soda, could now be worth $165,000. That's more than some people's yearly salary. More than the cost of a luxury vehicle. More than a down payment on a house. This is the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about the metal or the age. It's about the story, the preservation, the rarity, and the thrill of the hunt. So don't ignore that penny on the sidewalk. Don't throw away that old coin jar in your basement. Because history might just be hiding at the bottom of it, waiting for someone like you to rediscover its value. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into the world of the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new coin discovery. We've got plenty more numismatic treasures to explore, and who knows? The next great coin might already be in your pocket. Until next time, happy collecting, and keep searching for those hidden gems.